So one of the questions I get asked very often is, Steve, how much do I need for a down payment? How much should I be saving up for? There are so many misconceptions when it comes to how much money you actually need for a down payment. Let's get some clarity on that coming up. Welcome, I'm your host, Steve Penate, realtor and host of the Steve Talks Real Estate Show, where we bring you value, content, and tips in all things real estate and housing related. So if you haven't done so, I want to invite you to hit the subscribe button down below. We are posting videos every single week when it comes to the real estate transaction. Hit the like button and share this with someone you feel needs to hear this information. So on this episode, we are going to be talking about how much you need for a down payment. I seriously get asked that question more than one time a week, and it's also a question that has so many misconceptions. It's wild to see the responses people have when it comes to their beliefs when it comes to a down payment when buying a house. Some people literally think you need to have 20%, 10%. Some others think you need thousands of dollars, like $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. I've heard $50,000. I'm like, where are you getting this information from? So I wanted to bring some clarity to this question and inform you really how much money you will probably need when it comes to buying your house. Let's get into it right now. So when it comes to how much money you need for a down payment when buying your house, it largely depends on the type of loan you are going to use. So based on the loan, so is your down payment. Different loans have different down payment amounts. In general, okay, one of the most popular loans is the FHA loan. It's very popular because it's a little bit more lenient when it comes to qualifying for that loan. It's not necessarily a first-time home buyer's loan, but first-time home buyers use it very often. So when it comes to using a FHA loan, you only need 3.5% of the purchase price, or in other words, you only need 3.5% of whatever you're paying for the house. Let me show you what that looks like. So let's use this example. Let's say you're buying a house that costs $200,000 and you're using a traditional FHA loan with a 3.5% down payment. So you are gonna put down 3.5% of $200,000. When you do the math, your down payment would only be $7,000 to buy a house that costs $200,000. The exact same math would go with a house that costs $250,000 and you're using a FHA loan. You would take 3.5% of $250,000. So if you see a house, let's say you're scrolling on a real estate app like Zillow or whatever, and you see a house that costs $270,000. And you're wondering, my gosh, how much would I need for a down payment to buy that house? Well, if you were going to use a FHA loan, a traditional one with a 3.5% down payment, you would do the math. $270,000 times 3.5%, and that should give you your down payment. Now, there are other loans like the traditional conventional loan. Those require 5% down payments. So imagine you were buying the exact same house, $200,000, and you were using a conventional loan. Well, your down payment would now be 5% of $200,000. If you would do the math, using a conventional loan with the 5% down payment, your down payment would be $10,000. Now, every loan has different variations to it. For example, there are some conventional loans that only require 3% down payment when it comes to purchasing your house. So before you assume what you actually need, it's very important that you understand what the reality really is. One of the best ways to find out what type of loan would actually work best for you in your situation is to talk with a trusted lender that can walk you through what it's going to look like according to your financial and credit profile. Now, the worst thing you could do, as I say very often, is assume and you really don't have a goal you are aiming towards. So, number one, don't assume you need thousands upon thousands of dollars when in reality is that it's probably going to be a very different amount according to whatever loan you get. Here's the good thing is that in general, if you plan very early on, it's relatively affordable to be able to save for a down payment on a house you want. So it's very important that you're not coming up with your own conclusions. Now, another question that is asked a lot when it comes to a down payment is, Steve, are there down payment assistance programs? And the answer is yes, there is. Now, there are certain criterias you have to meet in order to qualify for a down payment assistance program. One of the biggest things is credit scores. Remember, when it comes to buying a house and the mortgage side, the lending side, they reward you in essence for having a higher credit score. The better your credit score is, the better you look as a buyer, the more responsible you look as a buyer. So the good news is this: there are down payment assistance programs out there that absolutely help families get into homes. Now, there are a lot of things that come into play when it comes to using a down payment assistance program. Some programs have certain guidelines you have to meet, like, for example, sometimes down payment assistance programs, they have certain limits in which you won't be able to sell your house. If you do, you got to pay some of it back. Down payment assistance programs will come with a higher interest rate. And so these are things that, yes, down payment assistance programs are absolutely beneficial for so many families that truly need the help to get into houses. At the same time, be ready to experience some stricter and very different guidelines when it comes to using those types of loans. Are they still helpful? Absolutely. Do I promote them? Absolutely. I love being able to help families use down payment assistance programs when it comes to buying a house. So, down payments, you don't need 20%, 30% to get into a house. The traditional loans we see, for the most part, you'll need somewhere from 3% to 5% of the purchase price, whatever the house costs, for a down payment. If you're someone that is interested in using a down payment assistance program, well, get ready for a higher interest rate and some certain guidelines you have to meet and adhere to when you purchase the house. Nonetheless, they are still very beneficial. Now, one thing I recommend everyone to do, now I love that you are watching this video and it's very informative, and I know that there's a lot of other information on the internet and so on, but the best thing you could always do is to reach out to a trusted real estate agent and or a trusted lender and get the facts according to your financial situation, according to the city and area you want to buy into, because everything could always vary. But in general, this information will apply to almost everyone. Nonetheless, the best thing you could do, I'll say it one last time, is to sit down and or talk with a trusted agent that can walk you through the process that is customized to your situation. Well, that wraps up episode 115 of the Steve Talks Real Estate Show. I hope this information when it comes to the down payment brought some clarity to you and some peace to you, because I know that, this whole process can bring on anxiety, so many unknowns, stressful and so on, and we try our best to be able to give you as much information you can to bring you peace to the process. If you haven't done so, hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up and share this video with someone you feel needs to hear this information. With that said, keep sending in your questions and I will do my best to keep on answering them.